Hey, I thought I'd make a video about this toilet here. So, a couple different things. First off, I like these elongated ADA height, 16.5 inches at the ceramic lip. Plus, of course, you get another inch, so it makes it 17 inches, and you can get a thicker lip if you'd like, so you know the elderly can get up and move. With that being said, it sucks to have these here because people try to grab them and pull themselves up. Unfortunately, it's a mobile home and there's not much to grab onto here, but that's another story. The point of this video is that this tank doesn't belong to this here. And so a couple different things. The holes were off by just like 2 millimeters. So I ended up using a tile hole cutting drill bit to make the hole oval shaped and so the bulb will fit. And so two things, I ended up replacing the rubber gasket. So it's the bolt, the washer, then the rubber gasket. But between the rubber gasket and the porcelain, I ended up using some of this liquid tape joint compound. What is this thing called? Pipe joint compound. So this is $4. They've got all sorts of fancy ones, $7, $8. Get the cheapest one. It works just as well as the other stuff, in my opinion, my experience. So I ended up reusing the seal that seals this porcelain tank to this porcelain toilet. A drop of water, and then I ended up getting some rubber material on there. But anyways, one thing that I noticed was I was leaking. It was leaking at the bolts. So you can kind of see there's water there, and it was actually leaking at the bolt being the lowest point, you know, on the tank. So as the water comes down, it was dripping off that bolt. And so there's a little bowl here that the tank sits in, and between the tank and the toilet, there's a gasket. There was water down there, you saw it, but I went in and dried it up so I can flush the toilet as I tell you about the gasket. So the gasket here, this is the way it orients itself between the tank and the toilet, so it sits right in there. And the problem was, I didn't realize, was first off, obviously it's older, but you can see there's a little bit of a lip there. So I figured that there'd be no problem with it making a seal. But I think that the problem is the tank lived at an angle and eventually just pinched the crap out of one side. And so it's hard to tell, but this seal is missing like this bottom lip here. I did not realize that. So I ended up buying another seal. So my toilet hole happened to be 2 inches. This hole right here was 2 inches, so you can see it's 2 inches there. This rubber gasket used to be nice and soft. Now it's, well, harder than it should be. And actually this is more like a foam rubber. But either way, with time, the chlorine and whatnot deteriorates the rubber. But this is what I bought. This is a part number. I believe I got this at Lowe's. So this is a Lowe's product. And just in case, here's the barcode. If you want to see the barcode. All right. And so all I really did, the other issue was, I did go ahead and buy this kit as well. And so this kit has the rubber piece and then it has a little diaphragm in it. And so that's interesting. This thing is, oh, this is the PTFE. I apparently got some on there. But either way, it has this little diaphragm on there. And then you can see from the photo, depending on which toilet you have, you can actually put this between the toilet bowl and the nut. And then it has a little paper gasket. This paper gasket would go in here, and then you can put your nut on there. And this paper, all it does is let that Teflon nut slide on the rubber. If you don't have this paper seal or it gets wet, keep it dry. If it gets wet, then it'll just pull the whole thing out and it won't keep it round anymore. So with that paper gasket, it's just compressing it and it's not torquing, it's not spinning it. So that's neat about this part. I did not end up using that apparently, or obviously. It does come with new bolts, washers, and these rubber O-rings, which is good. But I did end up taking this off and I went ahead and used the red rubber piece. When in reality, all I needed to do was just replace this piece here. And I would have, you know, saved whatever. This piece here was about $4. Where this component here was maybe like $7 or $8. So I'm hoping I can return this at least. They may or may not return it. Sometimes they don't accept toilet stuff, drainage stuff, for obvious reasons. Obviously, they wouldn't understand. Well, they most likely would not understand that this is clean water stuff. It's not under the toilet where, you know, fecal matter and urine or whatnot gets launched. So this is the part number for this device here. And then if you want the, so what's called the UPC, there it is. And so I did end up using a 1/2 inch socket and a screwdriver. And so the screwdriver would actually end up going inside to hold the bolt head in place. You can see a standard slotted bolt. So these things here do not get cranked in. So you don't have to crank them in. The idea is just to tighten it enough to stop water from flowing. And then maybe give it just a little bit. If you once it starts getting snug, then maybe just give it a little bit of a turn. And that's really all you need. Obviously, if this is your home, you can keep an eye on it and do what you need to, but there's no more water. And so I think we succeeded at what we needed to do. This on this joint here, if you tighten this nut, it has a little rubber piece in there, and as the nut compresses down, it spreads that nut out and it'll actually tighten it onto the center shaft there, and you'll have no leaking. I do see some moisture right there, so I'm hoping this darn PEX is not leaking. I might end up having to come back and just crimp that PEX ring. I didn't do this. This is probably a 20-year-old PEX ring. Oh, we just saw a drip, so hopefully that's not it. Looks like maybe this was just a little loose. All right, cool. Now we tightened it, and we'll just keep an eye on it. Hopefully it'll be dry by the time I get back. All that to say was I removed the tank, replaced the rubber washer that goes in there. I did end up using the rubber boots. So in the photo, you can see that it's got little bullets there. It's got 3 of these. And in the diagrams, it tells you just rip them off right there. It tells you just go ahead and rip it off. And it doesn't have to be perfect. This one just tore like this, and all 3 of them tore like this. So they already designed to come off or whatnot. But then I just went ahead and grabbed 2 of them and put them between the tank and the toilet. And so they're popping out like this. I actually used a little flap to keep like a little rubber gasket between this and this, so that it's not porcelain to porcelain with all that pressure on there. Let's see if you can see what I'm telling you. Yeah, see the little rubber flap there. So that's what that is. And yeah, it's smashed there actually. So I did not use one of those rubber O-rings between that. I just went ahead and left that with this little rubber bullet thing, and it does fit in this direction, and it'll go into the hole for the toilet nicely. This is an Algier, and it only had 2 holes to keep the tank to the toilet. All that crud on there doesn't really matter if you don't like it. I mean, you can use some Ajax or put some of those chlorine tablets in there, but keep in mind every time you put a chlorine tablet in there, that rubber flap is gonna deteriorate just a little bit more and more over time. And so that's it. This whole video just to show you that if you do have leaking at the back of your tank, it's super easy. Take off those 2 bolts. They're 1/2 inch nuts, so you can just use a little 1/2 inch socket, take those 2 bolts off, and just work it up. This hose should not be tightened down with pliers or whatnot. The problem is that if there's too much crimping pressure, the hose underneath is actually being pushed down by the little rubber seal, and eventually the plastic that's actually makes the nut for that hose, it's pushing it up, but it'll crack and break, and it'll crack right at the bottom where the rubber meets the hose. And I've had that happen. Went out to dinner with my wife and came back, and the entire place was flooded. We had to ask, I went over to the neighbor's houses and asked for fans, and I had a shop vac, but still we had fans everywhere. And I had just put laminate floors down as well throughout the house, and it just flooded every place. So, you know, it's like a $10 fix. It may not hurt just to do it preemptively. And you can get an entire kit for like $25. It is totally worth it. It'll take you, you know, even if it takes you 30 minutes to an hour to do it, it's not that hard. And, you know, I spent days sucking up water, and having the fans, and thank God that the walls didn't get damaged and the floors didn't get damaged. We got it early enough, and the interventions were early enough that we did not have any damaged floors at all, so we got super lucky. But anyways, it's there, it's ready. You can see this thing is full of water and there's no leaks. So we're done. Thanks so much for watching. You got a brand new floor. All right, take care, guys.